Picture it's May of 1987 in Columbus, Ohio. You're in a car headed towards downtown when U2's song With or Without You comes on. It's #1 on the billboards right now, so you've heard it quite a bit. You work in downtown Columbus, like in the heart of it. It's actually pretty neat because you've really always wanted a job in the city, and it's finally starting to get nice outside again. Especially after that brutal snowstorm hit in early April, where you all got over 12 inches of snow. Despite the weather being much nicer today, frankly, you've about had it. Traffic congestion in downtown is making you late for work, despite the fact that you left 15 minutes early, specifically to beat this rush. But sadly, you've miscalculated. Public transit has always been a pretty interesting topic to talk about in Columbus. From buses to trains, and even mock-ups of what subway systems in the city could look like, everyone has an idea for how they'd approach the topic of transit in the city. But did you know that a monorail was actually proposed to Columbus? And it got a little further than you'd think, especially in terms of logistics and even prices for riders. Let's go back to that May Day in 1987. Everyone is looking for a way to alleviate traffic congestion and problems. It'll come as no surprise that traffic congestion in downtown is bad. I mean, we still see some of it now. And actually, like I mentioned, it's much more than a thought. Mock-ups were made and details about how much it would cost riders even emerged. Von Roll-Habiger, a Swiss manufacturer, made a very loose proposal to city politicians about this monorail. The firm said they could have one up and running in the city by 1992 if they were given the contract in the following year. Of course, as you all know, if you live in Columbus, that never happened. But what would it look like if it had? If you're not super familiar with what a monorail looks like, imagine a single large track that a subway car-ish vehicle hugs on either side. One rail in the middle that the train sits on, thus the name monorail. And that's exactly what the initial proposal showed. It was an old school Photoshop that's actually the cover art for this podcast, and it showed one track going through different parts of town. That track was elevated off the ground. So let's pretend it did get built based on the specs in the proposal. The monorail would be a roughly 4-mile system, costing about $40 million. Though there are some estimates that add an extra 10 or so million to that cost to build and an additional $2 million a year to run. A few of the stops the monorail would link to would be the Ohio Center, Central High School, the Columbus City Center, and a few other stops. The monorail trains would travel around 30 miles an hour, and estimates of how many people would be on them put it anywhere between 4,000 and 8,000 passengers an hour, which indeed would alleviate some of that traffic downtown. But the monorail really never went anywhere, just due to a lot of different logistics. Priscilla Meade, Upper Arlington's mayor at the time, was put in charge of a committee to review the proposal. Eventually, the committee did not endorse that plan. But what's interesting is they actually came back with a different plan. An automated guideway system like in Detroit or Miami, which I suggest taking a look at. The cost of that proposal was higher, and the estimated cost to maintain it was also a little higher, with some estimates putting it at around $4 million a year. As you're probably well aware, that also never came to be. And over time, the thought of that proposed monorail kind of quietly faded away from public discourse, though the conversation around public transit is still one in Columbus to this day. Was it really likely that this monorail was ever going to happen? Honestly, probably not. But when you look at the future of transit in Columbus, especially when we talk about new measures passed with Link Us, which will provide bus rapid transit, it's actually really interesting to look back and think, what could have been when it comes to public transit in Columbus, Ohio? Links to the sources where I got information for this episode of the Columbus Chronicle are in the description of the episode. You can listen to the Columbus Chronicle on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.